Well, hello, listeners. Or I should say viewers. This is on YouTube. My name is Vaughn Fry. Joining me today is Michael. Go ahead and say hi, Michael.
Hello, everyone. Glad you could join us, and we have a real treat for you today.
We are watching Star Wars A New Hope, Episode 4. That's how it's written out on Disney Plus. This is a Disney Plus commentary track for the Star Wars film. So, for the most part, since this is a co opt stream, I'm going to be providing the quips, and Michael will probably be giving the facts. And if
Pretty
you would
much.
like to listen along with us, oh, also, you know what? Hit up all the coupon codes in the pinned comment below. I've got a lot of exclusive offers for my listeners. And one of the chief ones I want to mention is nork.net. Use my promo code FRY45 at checkout. Get 45% off the best flatware in this system. If you'd like to queue up, go to Disney Plus, get your Star Wars going, because this is, I think, the most recent version of this. We're probably going to hear a Vader no at near the end. Or no, wait, that's a Return of the Jedi thing. Anyhow, yeah, I think this is the most recent version. We've got an updated 20th Century Fox logo, no Disney Plus intro thing, but 000 and hit play now.
The classic that started it all. And start
Unfortunately,
with
that
the.
I don't know if we can call this the classic. It's so Frankensteined up and
Mm-hmm.
modernized in places. Right in front of your face, you're getting updated 20th Century Fox, updated Lucasfilm logo when
Yeah,
it
if
was
we were
such
watching
different.
the unaltered
That
original
text right
versions, it
there,
would.
long ago in a galaxy far, far away, that was a different color originally, wasn't it?
I think it was the same, but originally, the Lucasfilm logo, if we're watching the original unaltered version, it's just the standard green font.
It's a green kind of blurry text that appears.
And, okay, a
Episode
long time
4, A
ago,
New Hope.
in a galaxy far, far away, for a circa 1977 audience, circa 1977 audience, they might wonder, okay, how long ago are we talking about here?
This is sort of like the Street Fighter 2 of movies because there's so many updates that keep coming. Re-releases. I guess nowadays games get updated every week. But the text, we got the A New Hope, Episode 4. Many of those things were added after the fact. Did it even say A New Hope? I think it just said Star Wars and then gave us the first paragraph
Yeah, originally
originally.
theatrically, it was just straight up Star Wars. Then it begins. It is a period of civil war. They added
It's
that
hard
later.
to explain to an audience that's watched the other movies why you'd even need this text at this point because it's almost assumed you're supposed to have watched Rogue One even before this at this point. If you, I do you think Disney thinks that you're supposed to introduce kids to Star Wars in order of chronological story?
I I would say standard, you would go chronological, but if you want to be a purist, then you'd go by release of the
I would say order
by
of release.
episode
There
numbers.
is a thing called machete order, where I think you watch a couple of them as they coincide with the prequel, but you leave out Phantom Menace altogether so that your introduction, and this is supposed to be an advised way to introduce somebody to Star Wars. Yeah, concept being that you see Vader and Luke Skywalker at closer to the same age than being introduced to child Vader.
I never understood the idea of leaving out episode 1, but it's
I kind of think episode one's the better of the prequels, but I do think it's not nearly as good as the first three. So it's the issue there. This is a cleaned up, nice, pristine transfer. I think you can watch this in 4K on Disney Plus. This is as good as Disney will let you watch this movie because if you get that 2004 unspecialized kind of DVD that was from them, it's not an anamorphic presentation. It's not cleaned up. It's supposed to be there to make you think maybe I should be watching the special edition.
why couldn't they give the unaltered original versions the same treatment?
I've been watching The Mandalorian, and the space scenes are quite a bit different, and I would have appreciated an effort to make the CGI effects look like the original optical effects. That could possibly be done with CGI, though no one seems to bother. And
No,
I've got my volume not super high here, but we probably hear the Imperial March when we shouldn't, when Vader enters.
not just yet. That wasn't introduced until Empire. It's
I
just
think
this.
that's added to this movie, this version.
Huh. That was one of the only times they do a screen fade out, then fade back in these movies.
Yeah, that
Did you
was a
see that just
very
a second ago?
odd. I noticed the fade too. I think maybe you're not supposed to notice that because it's smoky. Maybe that the smoke was supposed to disguise it. All right, in comes Vader.
Now, no matter what version we're watching here, original and altered, special edition, whatever, it's
That's
just
not the
the
Imperial
special
March.
effects still hold up well to this day.
I was under. Okay, maybe they took the Imperial March back out because I know they added it to Episode 4 at some point. And we're inserting a disk drive. That's not the thing that they hand. Not the same media that they hand Princess Leia at the end of Rogue One, is it?
Uh, it looks similar. But here's
I
my
think there's a
question,
few
and
tells. All right, go ahead.
here's my question. Okay, we learn in the opening title crawl, Rebel forces striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. Victory? At the end of Rogue One, most everyone dies.
Is it victory if you keep the information? If you stole the jewels from the tower and you keep getting away, but everybody's dying, is it a victory? Is it a successful robbery? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's debatable. Okay. Here's where we first see Vader being intimidating. I can still remember seeing the behind the scene footage, David Prowse wearing the Darth Vader suit, and he's there on set doing the talking. Find those rebels. I want those plants. Take them alive. Before they brought
His
in James
voice
Earl
is
Jones
not
to do
so
the
good.
voice.
However, I think it would be pretty tricky to make the movie and swap somebody's voices out if you were also during that scene collecting the actions. I guess so much more of the sound of almost none of the sound shot while filming must have been used. Must have been so much of it done in post. I think there's a few tells that separate the first Star Wars from the next two. I think that the first one looks at times like a 70s movie. And there are some shots that look pretty clean and nice. But then there's some ways the light kind of hits R2D2 and Vader's helmet doesn't have the shiny polish to it that it gets later.
Yeah.
Now this is the part that could have ended the entire franchise right here. If only we'd fire these lasers at this misfired escape pod.
Uh-huh. And they said there goes another one. Okay. How many pods escaped during that fighting?
I didn't see a bunch of them firing off.
Me neither.
That's an updated shot right there, the planet. That's pretty sure.
Yeah, you see the little blue glow around it? That I don't remember that being in the original. Maybe it was there, but some of these
I don't think
changes
you
for
can
the
do
special
that the
editions
same.
were just so subtle. I will say this, the special edition alone, just the picture quality, they changed that so much. I mean, comparing the Blu-ray to, say, a VHS release is no contest.
You can see a ton of pits and blemishes in the Vader helmet in this one that I haven't noticed in prior. Cause this is my first time seeing this in HD streaming. I mean, I think I've come across it casually HD on television. I've seen the DVDs, VHS, whatever. You can see some serious imperfections with their mold for when they
Yeah.
must have pried out Vader's helmet.
Maybe with some trial by error on set, David Prowse wearing the suit, getting used to just the feel walking around with that thing on set. And especially all these actors wearing the stormtrooper costumes. How big were those helmets compared to their head size? Didn't you think it
There
felt
are some
awkward for them wearing them on set?
inconsistencies in this. The stormtrooper helmets have some inconsistencies about them between movies, and it may not just be between movies, but during the first movie with sizes and shapes kind of flattening out, maybe expanding when they made them, possibly
Mm-hmm.
unintentionally.
Now, one thing I like about all
This
of
is
the,
an added shot right here, I believe, where the shot zoomed in on them in the dune.
I think that was there originally. But what I was going to say is, what I love about all these movies is the way they, at actual locations, how they make it look like something out of this world. Like here we are at this dune sea desert. They're shooting on in Tunisia. I think a little while later, it's the same location towards the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
C-3PO has a underappreciated line about how we're made to suffer. It's our lot in life. Probably one of the best lines in the franchise, though people don't quote it. I think that kind of keeps a mystique about it. You have some of the stuff that's too quotable gets cheapened. Already wanting to go separate ways. This comes to a pretty good start. You got a nice whiz-bang fight at the beginning and a sense of urgency. And it's a good way to kick off the franchise. Now, is that our first wipe right there? Or do we have a... There's usually a wipe between changes of scenery, right?
It looked like the first one.
There, trying to think, was there a wipe that took them from Vader talking to the dunes? There might have been. I just didn't notice right away.
No, I'm pretty sure that was the first. Now, how far have they been walking at this point?
I wonder how R2D2 can manage in sand.
Oh, a transport.
Got some nice big bones right there.
Okay, there, right here. The sky looks darker. Than the way I remember seeing it in the original version.
We will see R2D2 hide behind an added rock. A special edition added rock. Or maybe it's a 2004 added rock, but it's like something comes up, you'll notice.
Uh-huh. Okay, here's the same location as Raiders towards the end.
Certainly looks like it. And then Indiana Jones shows up with a bazooka and goes, "Never mind, I thought you were someone else." By the way, Harrison Ford was in my town a few days ago. I guess he's getting a plane worked on. When he comes by locally, every time he eats at P.F. Chang's. There's supposed to be something about R2D2 hiding behind a rock. Maybe he hides behind a rock in Return of the Jedi.
It's
But you know what
coming
I'm
up in
talking
a
about?
while. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay, so
where
it's going to be
Obi-Wan is
later.
introduced.
Okay. So it's when he's avoiding the sand people. Is that it?
Yes.
I've seen Jawas and most of these things in person. They had a tour of the original props from the first three movies, chiefly. In my area, they brought a lot of them in. I think I saw the episode 4 Vader costume, Jawas, the original Millennium Falcon, a lot of the other stuff, even the land speeders. That Millennium Falcon is a shockingly big miniature. It's like the size of a bed. Now, Star Wars often imitated, never quite duplicated. A lot of cheapo efforts to ride the space fantasy wave. Have you seen Star? There's one with David Hasselhoff. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Sort of an Italian production.
Don't believe I've seen that one. What did
Oh,
they
it's
inject
not.
R2 with a minute ago?
I think they have a tracking device. The Jawas are scavengers, and that's about all we really know about them. Still, they made an appearance in Mandalorian. Started watching some of that, and they're kind of just doing the scavenger thing in that film too. But I have to wonder: do all Jawas have these giant tanks? Because the Mandalorian, he comes across the Jawas, and they have a giant land crawling tank. And given their nature, one would think maybe they scavenged the tank rather than it's theirs and they built it. You know what I mean?
Good question.
So if the idea is that they just go around picking up trash, they all but every tribe of Jawas has tanks like this. It seems kind of weird.
And right here is our first major special edition change. Added
Ah,
shots
yes,
of
the
the
dewbacks.
Imperial officers riding not officers, I'm sorry, the stormtroopers riding doombacks. They're combing the desert. Originally, it was just this wide pan over shot.
Yeah, this is one of the
Starting
longer
right
sequences added that, of course, everybody picks up on
here.
the more noticeable stuff. But there's little things that they change too that people don't immediately pick up, and a lot of it's just in the edit.
Here's a different shot too. Originally, it was a wider, like further away shot of the sandcrawler coming in towards camera.
It looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah. And again, I
Now
will say
that
that.
I'm not sure how big the miniature for the Sandcrawler is, but to have good miniatures, they have to be considerably big, so that you can put in lights and articulations, fine lines, creases, windows, all kinds of little stuff. When people rip off Star Wars, they made the miniatures too small, and then you end up with what is obviously a miniature. You know, these guys have had quite a life-changing experience in one day. They went from kind of hanging out with the princess of the rebellion to now basically being slaves sold off.
It's been a rough
Fairly,
afternoon nonetheless.
yeah, an eventful day or so, yeah. Oh, how different this could have been if the reddish unit didn't break all of a sudden when Uncle Owen picks it out.
Uh-huh.
Kind of a plot convenience, though, that the droids with the information, sort of a catalyst to get Luke to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then understand the truth about his existence, all comes together. I suppose if the droids never came to Luke, eventually Obi-Wan Kenobi would be like, so there's something I need to tell you about your dad, and now you should go fight for the rebels. Because obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi's hanging out in close proximity to keep an eye on Luke. I'm assuming, right?
Right.
So eventually he'd have to tell him, hey, you should probably go fight this Emperor guy. Even if droids don't show up to speed up the process.
I suppose it depends on which source you look into, but maybe it was one of those things when George Lucas had this film in mind originally, or just wasn't expecting it to be such a hit as it was.
Yeah, a lot of people, there's conflicting information. George Lucas will tell you he had it all planned out from the beginning. And then other people like not entirely all planned. Here we go. This droid just so happens to break, changing the course of the film. Yeah, see, he's got that deactivator device plugged on these.
Uh-huh.
This guy just so happens to go down. Nobody tinkered with him to make him have to get R2 instead. Well, this is an R2. That's an R2D2. That's what we want over there.
It's just little devices they have that immobilize droids. I don't know if you played the Lego Star Wars games at all, but when you get to the through the Junlin Waste stage, the Jawas, they're always running around injecting R2 or 3PO with those immobilizer things, and if you're playing as them, you can't move for a few seconds.
I haven't played Lego Star Wars. I've played a number of Star Wars games over time, and they've, unlike a lot of other properties, I think Star Wars did a pretty good job with the games throughout their history. From
Definitely.
the Star Wars, the arcade, Atari with the vector graphics. Now, look, isn't this interesting how the world building here, you have Luke Skywalker playing with the Imperial lander, like the ship that kind of like the Emperor comes in to visit the Death Star too, right?
Yeah.
He's playing around with
The
like
shuttle.
essentially a miniature from the movie. Like the Empire has merchandise to be selling people. That's George Lucas. I just want the merchandise, right? They got merchandise in the movie of the movie. You had to give 3PO a bath here. Cleaning up the droids. What I was saying of the games, the original arcade game, I think came out around the time of Return of the Jedi, and it had really sweet vector graphics and it had the trench run and things. They had further experiences like that, but then they had some quality games on the Super Nintendo, and Shadows of the Empire on N64 was strong. A lot of people like these Battlefront games, which I can't really get much into because it seems like you have to pay money for the right to play as the cool character instead of just a droid. And then you kind of just get destroyed by the people who paid more money. So it's not quite free to play, but it's definitely pay to win. A lot of movies will go on to mirror the hologram effect in Star Wars. Maybe not the first movie to have holograms. They mention holograms and they watch holograms in Lucas's original film THX 1138. Of which they also talk about, I think I hit a Wookiee with a car.
Now, why is the message kind of garbled like this? Because later on, when they're in Obi-Wan's hut, they play the message in its entirety.
Kind of just gives them a good knock, and it's like, oh, I found the rest of it, right? Maybe it's a sample because he has to take it to his owner, Obi-Wan, and since you're not Obi-Wan, I'm not going to play the whole message. The bolt messed with them, the tracking bolt thing there.
And all that does is stop the message.
Logic would dictate that the romance set up here would be between Luke and Leia, because he's kind of like, whoa, she's beautiful. Hey, bring her back. To me, it was almost as much of a surprise to learn the revelation, Luke, I'm your father, as Han Solo and Princess Leia getting together. So it seemed to me. In my original viewing of Star Wars, I didn't really recall a whole lot. What really stuck out to me most is a moment coming up in the cantina. I'll get there when we get there. People make a big fuss of the blue milk. I don't think that the blue milk was prominently displayed in the first movie to be a thing that anybody would know about. Do you?
Not really.
Like, I mean, look,
It
their
was one of
glass
those
is.
things
They have a
became
cup,
more
not a glass. I can't much see what's in it.
just became more prominent later. I think there's a scene in Attack of the Clones where they're sitting at the diner table. Beru brings Anakin a glass of blue milk.
They have some right now, but I mean, it's not incredibly prominent. We don't see them a shot pouring it in, really showcasing the blueness. It's very much in the background.
What are they eating here? It's like oatmeal or something.
Aunt Beru has got that kind of early 70s Partridge Family vibe going. Like, her clothes are not fitting in with the rest of the Star Wars universe. I think there's something coming out, a Star Wars thing that deals with Uncle Owen, or he has a part in it. I think Uncle Owen and Obi-Wan having some adventures together for the Obi-Wan series. Anybody ever rock that Aunt Beru cosplay? Nice little patterns on the leisure suit collar. Big 70s disco collar there.
Yeah. The hairdo, too. 1970s. And right here,
This
one of
is
the most iconic
this
shot
is
in
a
films right here.
yeah. Well, it's got great music also. Recent poll Microsoft Rewards said battle between two composers. This was about a week ago. It says who you picking or whatever, and it's John Williams and James Horner. And I said, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to go with Williams, and most people did, like 78%. He ran off. Yeah, this is where we're going to end up seeing R2. Never really got a good understanding of how moisture farms work, did you?
Not in the film so much, unless you read more about it in the books.
They certainly made it sound boring so that you can be like, man, I wish if I was stuck there, I'd want to go off into space too. It's not like he's living a cool life. If he was a kid in the city and had a lot of buds and a sports car and all sorts of stuff, maybe he wouldn't be so compelled to leave. So they needed to put Luke in a kind of stuck in a rut situation so that he'd want to go and do excellent stuff. But they gave Leia all the cool toys so that she can be the princess and then eventual leader, I suppose. While Luke is being set up to get his revenge. Could be one way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. And this thing, too, this vegetable cooker she's got.
I know that they doctored up the speeder, which I always thought actually looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm. There's some subtle
is this
things
an
they change.
elephant? Is that how you go about this?
Yeah, the Banthos were elephants wearing this whatever suit they put over them. I was going to
You
say
can
there's
train
some
an elephant
subtle,
to do about anything.
some subtle things with dialogue too they do for the special edition changes. Just a few moments ago when Luke and 3PO go back inside, Luke says, come on back inside. I think originally, theatrically, he just motions his head like, follow me, like, and doesn't say a word. There's some subtle
There,
changes with
there are
dialogue too.
some added dialogue for clarification that didn't need to be clarified. But in a lot of ways, he looks out over at the binary sunset with kind of a sad, "Well, man, I'm stuck here." But he doesn't say it to people as now. Here we got the. He's gonna knock him down and do that shot where they scrub back and forth.
Okay, it's coming up right here.
Crouching Tiger, hidden R2D2. There we go. That's
There.
the rock in front of him.
What? How could he fit in that little hole with that rock on the way? Why was it added? And coming up right
Well,
here with the Obi-Wan yell, they've changed that so many times too.
similarly, how would they not notice this spot over there? Rock or not, it's got a glowing red light.
And does R2 not remember Obi-Wan? They knew each other in the prequels.
Oh, now is this possibly a force power that we don't know? The Vulcan mind meld type thing he just did? Maybe that's a force healing from concussion?
Where he was
We've
touching
seen
his forehead?
Yeah, because we had force healing come up in the Rise of Skywalker.
I'm not sure
Maybe
what that
it was there the whole time. He healed his concussion.
But we also see in Revenge of the Sith when Palpatine finds Vader wounded on Mustafar, he leans down and touches his forehead in a similar fashion. And when Obi-Wan says to R2, "Hello there." Similarly, he says that to General Grievous before they have their showdown.
You're right. Yes.
As George Lucas would say, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Well, Ewan McGregor does a good job of sounding like the guy whose name I just forgot.
Alec Guinness.
Yes, him.
Oh, Ewan McGregor was fantastic as Obi-Wan in the prequels. That was spot on casting. And if you look at, I was going to say, if you go to Google Images, look at portraits of Alec Guinness when he was young. He does kind of look like Ewan McGregor.
Well, Ewan McGregor's uncle is, Wedge Antilles?
That's right. Dennis Lawson.
Who survived all the major conflicts of Star Wars. The lone human survivor. Now, Sand People. Are Sand People Jawas and Tusken Raiders?
I'm pretty sure they're a different race entirely.
No, I'm saying, like you say, Sand People is a generalization for everybody that lives in the desert, possibly.
Sand People, I'm pretty sure it's pertaining specifically to the Tusken Raiders. Tusken Raiders is just another word for Sand People. Here's another special edition change.
Wipes
the
all
outer
over the
shot
place.
of Obi-Wan's hut.
Yes, and then we're gonna get a fairly egregious shot where they come into Mos Eisley. I guess egregious, not egregious, but this dialogue has been changed a lot, and I think there is cut footage where they have a very different exchange. I have something for you. Well, I guess since these droids are here, they haven't really given you any instructions to leave this planet yet, but I'll show you this lightsaber.
Yeah, your father had this. I
I
won't tell
love
you some
that.
of the
Can I
things he
shut
did
off now?
with this
Go
thing,
ahead. Like,
but
we don't need you.
have a look.
Can I just, yes, quit talking. There. Cut to, we have to extend the rod out to kind of give us something to rotoscope over, right? That's kind of, it's a very different style than how they do it now, where it's almost assuredly all post, or, well, I guess in some points they'll have a rod on them so they can bang them together.
You see the hesitation in Obi-Wan's eyes before he starts telling Luke about Darth Vader. It's like this is a painful subject for him to remember about.
I found it quite odd how the term Sith is never brought up on screen in the original trilogy. Then starting with Phantom Menace, it's Sith all over the place. And I thought that struck me as very odd. However, there was a collector card from, I think, Topps, and the card for Vader said he was Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith, on the card, and that was in promotion of the original movie. It might have even been out before or around the time of the first movie, not like the action figures that were delayed. So the Sith was there in term, but kind of not really brought in till later. And when I first started hearing, oh, well, okay, so Darth Maul is described as a dangerous Sith. He's the first one described on screen as a Sith, which led me to believe his race was a Sith. They said he's like the last of the Sith. I'm like, well, I haven't seen one of these guys either, so it's kind of how I interpreted it.
I think Sith was just used sparingly in the original trilogy. They use it so much more in verbiage in the prequel trilogy.
I don't think the term is ever used in the original trilogy.
Yeah, if ever. Maybe referenced a couple times, like in some documentaries.
Well, they'll mention it not in the film, but they'll describe someone as having the Sith powers. He said he was lured, seduced by the dark side of the Force. I remember there was a PC game that I think where you end up playing as a gal that, according to the then canon, was like the wife of Luke Skywalker, or would be. I think her name was Mara Jade. And there was like dark Jedi powers. And so it seemed like there, I guess you'd have the light powers and the dark powers. Then they start dropping the Sith thing on you. And now you don't hear so much about Dark Force so much.
Mm-hmm.
Back
right
to
here,
Leia.
I think in some versions I've seen, here is where they add the Imperial March music. But if you've read the novels, some scenes in here that we see in the film are in a different order than if you read the novels.
We're
we got a lot
rocking
of
our
familiar
70s
faces
sideburns here. Look at the sideburns on these guys.
Peter Cushing, the late great Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin, and everyone knows the legend behind set of him wearing slippers on set.
I've heard this. What his shoes were too small. The boots, they only had super small boots for him. Is that right?
Yeah, it was something like that.
You can't get those cheekbones just anywhere, fellas.
I mean,
What do you
people
think
say
of
a lot about...
It
Go
seems
ahead.
like you have a lot of British accents in the Empire, but Obi-Wan Kenobi sounds kind of British also.
I was going to say something about that. People say a lot about, well, with the new movies, why is it primarily a cast of British actors and actresses? Daisy Ridley, Gwendolyn Christie? Well, I mean, with these movies, you have classically trained British actors. It's all British actors playing the Imperial officers, most of them anyway. Not this guy so much. This is Richard Parmentier, who should look familiar to a lot of you. He was the U.S. General's aide in Octopussy, and he was Lieutenant Santino in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Uh-huh. They have Who Framed Roger Rabbit on Disney Plus. We need to give it a look. I think that's another casualty of what was somewhere and is now on Disney Plus. Might have been on Netflix at one point.
And
I'm
this
just
other
noticing
guy
this
playing,
guy over here with the white outfit. It kind of looks like that Krennic in Rebel Rogue One, right? Which
yeah, similar.
I thought was a new sort of outfit that I hadn't seen before. That color evidently had been there before, you know.
And the other actor playing General Tag, Don Henderson. The only other movie I saw him in was No Escape with Ray Liotta. Did you ever see that?
I have not.
Interesting.
Oh wait, No Escape. That's not Ray. That's Kevin Costner.
No. This was from 1994. It's kind of like in the
Okay,
future.
haven't
Ray
seen
Liotta
that,
plays a
no.
prisoner. Interesting little
Now
movie if you ever do a run rant on it. And
Okay.
it's really only brought up if you read Legends material, but General Tag, I guess, took over, was promoted in the ranks of the Empire. He was actually an admiral at some point. He doesn't die at the end of this one, but eventually he is
Obi-Wan,
executed by
not in
Vader
a
via
hurry.
force choke.
Obi-Wan is not in a hurry at all to rescue Owen and Beru. No, wait. They're probably dead already. Right?
Yeah.
The
But
most
there's some
gruesome
subtle
scene in
differences.
all of Star Wars right here.
Uh-huh. You see they're burning skeletons.
Well, I mean, they get burned dead. You get a burning of Vader, but he survives. Therefore, I wouldn't give it full gruesomeness.
Or it's just being subtle. It's more horrific,
Rated
if you don't see
PG,
the
right?
Death Star screen.
Right here. Good lingering shot of charred skeletons. Rated PG, 1977. We gotta get Luke to live with somebody that can get killed so that he can get angry and want to take on the Empire. Who do we got? How about this couple over here? Loosely related to him. They'll take him in. What are your thoughts on this interrogation droid? It's
I don't know. It is what it is. They don't explain
open
much
to
in the film.
interpretation, isn't it? Like what's
But,
going to happen here?
If you've ever listened to the Star Wars radio drama, they expand dialogue, expand scenes so much.
He's got the Pfizer vaccine. No. That's one of the most 70s looking scenes right there, really.
Definitely. The way it works is they've got that hypo needle. It injects Leia, and Vader does these mind games with her, like, I'm your friend, I'm from the Rebel Alliance, tell me what we need to know. And she resists it all throughout.
I might have preferred to have seen that play out, though. Maybe they thought the torture of the woman, not a good look.
Or they just thought it was too much.
Not necessarily going to argue with him, is he?
Yeah.
Well, you said there's nothing for you. All right, fine.
But Luke's this kind of guy you can relate to. He's struggling on his farm, he's yearning for a better life. He's the everyman protagonist.
And
We
of
can all
course,
relate
you've
to him at
seen the
some
cut
point.
footage where he hangs out at Tashi Station and is kind of a giddier teenager. Kind of like, wow, hey, cool guys. Hey, so what's up? You know,
Oh my god,
yeah.
all this slapstick.
There's so many ways they could clean this up with newer CGI and probably make it a little easier to digest. I'm kind of surprised that they don't do that more. They have the technology, and it's as simple as swapping in some models here and there for these things. You know, if it's going to be there, why not make it look its best? Improve the textures and the animation. They did that with we'll be seeing surely Jabba the Hutt, the 97 Jabba the Hutt, quite a bit different than the latter Jabba.
Yeah, that's coming. And just
So,
a moment ago, if that creature walking in front of camera, was that really
mhm.
so objectionable a change?
I can't
It's only
recall
there
what the
for a
original
second.
creature looked like. Maybe something did walk across before or didn't, but maybe what did walk across before didn't have the characteristics of movement so well, and maybe that's why. You see, they even got one in the background there going.
Well, it's just making Mos Eisley look so much more inhabited, like they're at an airport or something. But some changes are for the better, like right here with this dewback in the background. It's moving its head, it's making this little
Was
blame
there
sound.
dewback before?
There was a dewback, but it's just sitting there emotionless.
A lot of people will say, well, the practical effects are the better, all this stuff, right? But the reality is that the practical effects, there are limitations to puppets and puppet heads. A lot of the characters in here, you see, they don't have mouths moving or nostrils, foreheads that wrinkle when they talk. Nothing.
And right
Like, I mean,
there, they
look at
changed the.
Bosk, for example. Like, Bosk is what in Empire Strikes Back has his mouth permanently open.
Uh huh. Right there, where they changed the Wolfman to this weird looking CG alligator wearing a Rastafarian hat. Just some little subtle changes, like, okay, why was that changed?
A lot of those shots of like the devil looking guy, that I think that was done after in post. Like that was something else that they went back and did. We don't serve them kind here. There's a lot of racism towards droids in Star Wars. A lot of
Yeah.
people are uneasy. They're anticipating the uprising of the droids.
Huh. Are drinks complimentary? What Luke ordered?
Yeah, well, they do mention credits, and that's something I find really cool in this. The currency change. They don't say space dollars. They credits. I like that. I also like how they say that I'm wanted on like 12 systems here coming up. Instead of saying solar systems, if it was something that you became accustomed to moving between, you would have a slang for solar system. And that does a lot, I feel like, in building the world of Star Wars. You'll be dead. This guy appears again in Rogue One. The idea being he's new in town in Tatooine, apparently. This right here, the slicing of the arm, was my big takeaway from my first viewing of Star Wars. Was, whoa, that was grim.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I can remember from the first time watching Star Wars on a fairly small TV VHS in probably the late 80s.
Or it's just to establish right up front Obi-Wan's not one to be trifled with. And right there,
Dewbacks look a lot better in The Mandalorian, by the way.
the civilian, the stormtroopers were talking there a second ago, that was Peter Diamond, one of the stunt men, or one of the main stunt arrangers.
So we have our first appearance of Harrison Ford as Han Solo
Mm-hmm.
and his pal Chewbacca. I think in this version, it's not Han shot first, it's they shot at the same time in this version. I have a
We'll
problem
see.
with the Han shots first argument because it should be only Han shoots, as Greedo does not get to fire, Han does. To say that Han fires first means there's going to be successive shots after. And we've lost a lot of Star Wars faces of late. We've lost Peter Mayhew. I think the first one to really drop recent was Carrie Fisher. Maybe Kenny Baker died right before her or in the same calendar year, and then Peter Mayhew. I guess who's next? Harrison Ford or George Lucas?
Well, last year
John Williams?
we lost both David Prowse and Jeremy Bulloch.
When you're done in the suit. And then when you're done in the suit.
Well, actually, I think the older of those remaining is, well, okay, obviously James Earl Jones. But, man, he's 90. I saw him in Coming to America on Amazon Prime. James Earl Jones' involvement with the series, though, is pretty limited. I mean, they could have brought him in well after all this was done and been like, I guess we're going to change Vader's voice, right? Maybe a few weeks before release.
They could, but I'm happy they did what they did.
Well, do you think that they intended to use his voice during filming? They were like, we got to do something else about this. Yeah, okay, David, you just keep talking. Yeah, that's good, all right. But the whole time they were planning to change it, or did they change it after they saw an edit?
I'm pretty sure as they changed it after the fact, they needed a more intimidating voice. A lot of what you were wondering there is explained about more if you watch the behind the scenes.
Greedo, one of the few articulated heads over here. He's got like these horn ears going around. His mouth moves. A lot of the other aliens in here are kind of a stiff.
There we go. Whoa.
Mask. Yeah. That was sort of a slide, a similar shot slide type thing, right?
And it's not just that they both fire at the same time. The way Han's head slightly jerks to the side.
It looked worse in the 97 edition. This is the only movie where you can really see the brownness in the lenses of Vader. As he was walking back and forth, they're really quite noticeable. I don't think they look brown at all, starting with Empire Strikes Back going forward. It seems more of a black tint.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, Empire of Dreams. That's the documentary I was going to mention. They really talk quite in depth about the history of the making of the movie. I think Empire and Dreams and from Star Wars The Jedi, the making of a saga, those are my two hands down favorite documentaries about the original trilogy.
I think we get an odd moment coming in where R2-D2 lags behind and has some issues with descending a staircase.
Here's a little trivia. See that droid kind of walking awkwardly on the far right? That's Anthony Daniels wearing that suit right there.
Oh, okay. There's
in the
not
radio
Greedo.
Drama, there's so much extra scenes they added in. They added some dialogue where Luke sells the land speeder to this random droid, and it's like at first he's offering 1,500, and Obi-Wan, they try to use a mind trick. He's offering 1,600, and Obi-Wan's, that isn't enough. That isn't enough? This speeder is worth more. This speeder is worth more. He can have his 2,000. Yes, you can have your 2,000.
Oh, interesting.
And,
Boba Fett.
Jabba the Hutt.
He's got several Greedo types with him, too.
Yeah. Everyone's seen the 97 special edition, how awful Jabba looked there. This is more of the... It looks like the Jabba the Hutt from episode 1. It's got more of a
Yes,
greenish
this
look around him. This
looks
is
more
better.
in line with the prequel quality CGI, but it could be better today.
And was Han
I think
stepping
it's
on Jabba's tail so
serviceable.
objectionable? If you've seen the behind the scenes footage where they actually had this actor on set,
Yeah,
well,
and
he walks
he
around him there. What else could they do?
right. Well, I don't think it's an awful scene. It's not something that needs to be included, but if you're putting this stuff back in theaters and you're going to call it the special edition with added stuff, you have to add some stuff that people are going to notice so that they feel like they got their money's worth. Boba Fett looking over here for fan service. Kind of like, hey, I'm in this shot too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you see that? I think we saw two R2D2s right there.
Yeah.
He couldn't quite catch up with them, and then another one slides into frame. Now look, R2 can't go down these steps well, so we cut away before he falls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we have another one walking into frame.
And how'd he catch up so fast all of a sudden? There's some odd edits going on.
I think it's kind of a sly move in a way. It's not so. It's not. I mean, if you understood the behind the scenes how to construct the shot, you're like, okay, they had to use multiple R2D2s to pull that off. However, it doesn't strike me as a jump cut or just kind of an interesting thing. Not really an error. It was definitely intentional. Blasters everywhere. How hard was it to do blaster effects in 77?
Tricky,
The first
but
of Chewie get us out of
they
here
pulled
as
it
Han
off.
Solo runs in a hallway. Added scene. Not necessary. Got the idea that they left, but I kind of think a shot, the second shot of them leaving the spaceport, not taking off, but getting out towards and then aiming towards the atmosphere. I think that's something one would need.
it's just
But wasn't there
visual
originally?
appeal, I guess. Like eye candy. Oh, look at that. There's a new shot. Like some things only purists would notice.
You can see how different the colors are when they had that shot of them, their backs to the camera, and it was like there's no blues in the tone. Everybody was a much more of a brown as they took out the blue screen. See how brown everything is?
Yeah.
Now, where are the dice? Evidently, there's a dice thing. Hey, Han needed to give you these dice. I've never seen dice in Star Wars. People have pointed out in freeze frames that they were always there. But, for something that they never have a shot of and then try to make it into a thing later, it just seems a little incongruent.
Okay, we just saw a full shot of Peter Cushing. I couldn't tell if those were slippers in that shot.
How bad does he smell?
Good question.
You ever seen anybody rock the Grand Moff cosplay?
No. Seen the Family Guy parodies, of course. It's almost impossible to watch these now without thinking of some line they had in to
You
make
talking
these
about Blue
comical.
Harvest?
Yes.
Now, have you seen the rough cut of this where the blast goes off and a guy yells "bang" and then it just hard cuts to the shot with the planet not there? It's kind of funny. You can find it on YouTube.
or just the outtakes where they would mispronounce a planet incorrectly. He says Dantooine is too remote to make an effective demonstration. Dantooine or Dantooine?
Do we know anything about Dantooine? Has it ever been visited?
Maybe in Legends material.
So where is the base actually located? What's the name of the planet?
Yavin.
But then it's kind of also on Hoth next, or no?
Yeah, it's in the next movie.
I mean, do they
establish a new
relocate, or
base.
they just have multiple bases? And like, they never come back to the same base. You know, like next new movie, new base.
Yeah, they just go from location to location. I don't think they have a specific, like, this base here, this base here, this base here. They just go wherever they need to go. And I don't want to keep bringing up, the later movies, but why are they the Resistance later on? Would it really have been so
It
bad if
doesn't
they
add
just
up.
would it really have been so bad if they just kept it specifically as the Rebel Alliance?
Well, it's not even that. They go from rebels to should be in charge. The return of the Galactic Senate. The Empire's over, but we never get to see that. From all we see, it's a start, like, there's no transition. We're rebels, now we're the resistance. How can you be resisting when you should be the ones who have the upper hand?
Exactly.
Like, it makes our heroes look entirely incompetent for them to have overthrown the Empire. Everything should be good now. Yeah, the good guys win, and goodbye. Come back 30 some years later, and oh yeah, well, turns out we screwed up, and now we're on the run again.
And so many more things they put in the later films too. We've got the alien chess game. We've got that floating ball.
They
During
put these
training
things in the
sessions.
later films as like your kind of Easter egg pull. Like, oh hey, you remember that from the first movie? Well, here it is too. Because if you add anything, it's probably going to feel more out of place than just putting in stuff that was originally in them. It's a losing gamble. Like, you can either do something really unoriginal or go too far and then alienate people. Either way, you make people angry. To the point with the films now, it feels like you're watching somebody's fan fiction, but it's super expensive fan fiction written off as canon because new ownership.
Now I know the original trilogy cast, they have mixed feelings about their playing their characters here, but I think watching the behind the scenes, this film in particular, you do get the impression that they had a good time on set nonetheless.
This
But
is the first experience of Luke with the Force. What is Han and Chewie doing with the blast shield helmet and the training bot? These aren't some goodies that Obi-Wan brought along, are they?
I doubt that. Just some things they happen to have there that they were making use
He
for.
he wasn't like, Luke, let me grab my backpack first. You know, like, I didn't see that happen.
Or maybe Obi-Wan did have them the whole time. Who knows?
They had a speeder, but then I didn't see him bring stuff, take this out of the trunk.
Here's Patrick Jordan playing Major Seward Cass. We'll see him very briefly in the opening scene of You Only Live Twice playing a Hong Kong policeman.
That
I
is a
mentioned that in
posh
your James
meeting
Bond
room, isn't it?
reviews. Speaking of Easter eggs, a lot of actors from the original trilogy we'll also see in James Bond movies.
That is true, yeah. Was that shot in hyperspace added?
I'm pretty sure it was the same in the original version. Maybe there were some added effects they quote unquote improved on later, but for the most part, the shot was the same. And what I said a moment ago, with you really get the impression that the actors at least had a good time on set, but at the same time, you have to wonder what would have been like if they had different actors who they were doing screen testing for. I can still recall seeing, I think, William Catt auditioning for Luke Skywalker, Kurt Russell auditioning for Han Solo, Terry Nunn, lead singer Berlin of all
I was
people,
going to
auditioning
mention
for
that.
Princess Leia.
Yes, lead
What
singer
would have been like
Berlin,
if they were
who
cast instead?
in seeing her audition, I thought she was way too young. She sounded way young. She kind of looked and sounded about 14, which I think would have made things really awkward for a relationship angle between her and Kurt Russell, if one was to go that way, or Harrison
Yeah.
Ford for that matter.
Perry King also auditioned for Han Solo. He didn't get the part, of course, but he was the voice of Han Solo in the radio dramas, and he was actually quite good. I mean, okay, let's be honest. There's only one Han Solo. It's Harrison Ford. No debate.
I have not seen Solo: A Star Wars Story. I might.
Neither have I.
No one's pressing me to watch it.
But at the same time, it's like, at one point, did Harrison Ford really think to himself,
There is an added shot with the tractor beam
I don't
here.
like this. I don't like this character. I don't want to do this anymore. Everyone knows.
I'm not sure why Harrison Ford would not like Han Solo when that's one of the characters people like most. And I think we'll see a shot that's added. I'm not totally sure which. But yeah, there's something about adding their entrance in. It might have been very brief. This is really impressive to me. Have you seen how they shot this? How they basically bring a giant miniature box into the room where they had the giant Millennium Falcon miniature brought in, and then kind of enveloped it around. This set alone looks more expensive than most movies now. Just the hangar bay where the Falcon is. They don't try with stuff now. They don't bother going. They don't build stuff. They don't go to location. They say, hey, who's available today to stand in the green room where we're going to add all the stuff in post? I don't know how this would have blown their budget alone. Building this right here, building the damn ship, all this right here just looks like a blown budget right away. I think they're working on maybe 16 million at most.
About that.
Fox had a limit, and I know that only because of Ridley Scott's impressive storyboard drawings and his concept pitch for Alien did they double his budget. But I would have thought they would have been willing to spend after the success of Star Wars.
But these were made with a shoestring budget back in the day. That's part of what
and this
makes them stand out so
okay,
well.
so it's under $20 million budget, makes $700 million in 1977 dollars, which is legitimate ticket sales in largely English-speaking countries. Now, it's hard to discern where movies are making their box office money because it's like something can flop here and yet it still makes... There's movies that made it allegedly $1 billion. I swear no one you know saw in a theater now. Captain Marvel, looking at you. I think World of Warcraft made a ton of money in China with nothing here, like very lopsided. I'd kind of like to see how that scanner device worked. You know, it would have been impractical to show us. No one knows what a stormtrooper sounds like. You know? It can be anybody's voice. I never was under the impression stormtroopers were supposed to be clones, were you?
No.
They do say something though. Leia, you're a little short for a stormtrooper, which makes you think there's a uniform nature about them, in a
Not
way.
until not until cloning's a thing in the prequels.
Then they introduced the cloning, and I'm guessing the clone troopers aged out. Slap.
I don't know if that was true.
There
but
are some changes there. It's
Yeah.
very quick, but the shot of the smoke coming from the guy's chest, the squib, gets edited out. So it's more of shot of firing to cut to falling on the ground rather than taking the shot. And that was an edit in the latest version.
The actor playing the lieutenant. I heard a rumor it was his birthday that day when they shot that scene where he opens the door and Chewbacca knocks him out.
A very 70s computer right here.
And of all these different locations, R2 is able to find the exact location where the princess is being held captive.
Has anyone ever described the purpose of the stormtrooper armor? As it seems to protect against nothing. Does it possibly allow for breathing in a gas-filled environment or mild space exposure?
Possibly. Why did they put some RRR subtitles there for Chewbacca growling? Did you see that? Like, wouldn't a simple
I don't
growl
think I
thing would have
saw
been
it.
enough?
I don't think. Yeah, I thought it would have just said parentheses growl or something. Like, I mean, for R2, it's beep beep is what I'm reading. What, the girl I saw in the hologram? As far as you can tell, the only girl I've ever seen in my whole life? She's here?
Uh-huh. Or at this point, one of the only girls in Star Wars? Well, I shouldn't say only, but one of them.
Yeah, let's not rule out Aunt Beru just yet.
Yeah. Or just certain female characters we saw in the cantina.
I didn't see a lot of girls
Like, who else could it be?
in the cantina. Human. She's rich. Better her than me. Here we go. Appeal to his smuggler ways. I really hated what they did with the Han Solo character in The Force Awakens, where he goes...
Who doesn't?
He moves up the ladder. He goes from smuggler to general. And then one could assume some other role, but now we see him go from general back to smuggler.
Yeah.
And it's such a disservice to the direction the movies went to just say, let's just start over, back to square one with you.
He's basically Obi-Wan in that movie.
Luke is Obi-Wan in a way. If Obi-Wan looked more checked out, like didn't even want to bother with Luke, that's Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi right there. Kind of a nice little fun little thing there. I mean, it's not a movie I feel like made for kids, like some would say. It's not a movie kids can't watch.
And is no one looking at them kind of suspiciously, like, what is this thing you have as a prisoner? Like, how often do they have
maybe they've
these
seen Wookiees around.
giant ape-like things as prisoners, or some sort of creatures
Anybody
there
not
before?
in uniforms being led to the detention block.
Yeah, don't mind us.
What is the significance of Chewie's bandolier, his sash? They will add some post-effect stormtroopers in this. It's later when Han's running through the hall and he comes across all the guys and he kind of like grins and then runs back. They added more of them. And you know what? I don't think they have removed the stormtrooper knocking his head on the door. I think that's in here. So I'll have to look for
No,
that.
it's coming. I don't think they ever removed that.
The hallway in the detention block has been elongated. I think that what they did was they replaced the backdrop with CGI to make it longer. Just kind of overdid it. Or well, I'm not overdid it, but enhanced CGI. Because I don't think it was it was simply just a backdrop before. So we'll see when they move that way.
Pandemonium.
Yeah, this is more of people getting shot with the blaster and the burn of the blaster hitting not being there.
Not just that, they're making sure they gun down all of the whatever these things are, these communication monitoring devices.
Yeah, you know,
so
it's
anyone
kind of
can hear
weird.
what's going on.
People don't have
Cameras.
cameras in Star Wars. No one takes a picture of anything. There's not a camera feed to watch, but there's something there, a sensor.
I get the impression Harrison Ford added in that line, "How are you?"
How are
'Cause
you?
You see him
Surely.
laughing right there in
Surely.
reaction to that.
Yeah.
Some ad-libbing.
Yeah, this is added right there. That's longer than it was. And you'll see more of that too. Oh, that looks like a nice place to rest, right? No pillow, nothing. Now, you know, Vader says, a feeling I haven't felt since, but doesn't say when. And then you kind of have to wonder, and it seems like that sense adjusts. Doesn't it? You have to wonder,
Yeah.
when was the last time he came across him? Because, hell, they could have another meeting coming up in the Obi-Wan series on Disney Plus, for that matter. Maybe they'll have another fight or exchange glances from across ships. I don't know.
Here they come.
And fall over. Nice job. Clogging up the path. I like how she improvises and gets kind of rescues them
Okay,
quickly.
right here. Did you see that?
See
Han,
what?
Luke, and Leia all in the same scene together. Really, Disney? Why couldn't you have pulled that off? Why?
Wow, is C-3PO dirty? That's a much longer hallway than it was before.
Yeah.
Maybe twice as long, if not. let's go into the trash compactor.
All right, I'm taking over. Follow my lead.
She called him Flyboy. Gotta make sure Holdo says that. I've seen many a video on the Holdo maneuver and all this other trash for the Last Jedi. Still, no one, aside from me, seems to be thinking, why do we need a human to pilot the ship for this? Does the ship not have an autopilot function, a computer? Could we get a droid to do the suicide bomb Holdo maneuver? Like,
And-
no one seems to bring
why-
that up.
Yeah, and why was the Holdo maneuver suddenly a thing that ships are capable of doing that?
They made a retroactive little encyclopedia type book after the Rise of Skywalker, trying to explain the plot holes in it, saying that it was a precise calculation in which the ship hit the whatever the big ship is in light speed before jumping to hyperspace. That there was a small window, super precise calculation, give her some more credit type stuff. When you're in hyperspace, though, you can't be in the path of something, right?
Yeah, you're in this other dimension.
Okay, so
Until
then
you
you
get
can
to your
just go
destination.
through to the other side of planets and stuff. You don't have to be, hey, we can only go into hyperspace if nothing's in front of us. What's this called here that kind of manhandles Luke?
The Dianoga.
That, I think, is a stop motion effect with the eye.
Looked like it. There's a funny thing they did in both the Family Guy parody and the Lego Star Wars games, how Han gets Chewbacca to go inside the trash compactor. He throws a bone down in there and lures that for Chewbacca to go in after it.
Oh, okay. I'd seen that Blue Harvest once. I remember actually seeing ads on TV to get that on DVD or Blu-ray, and go get Blue Harvest, the Star Wars parody, now on Blu-ray and digital copy. Odd to see a television episode, or is it one episode or a couple or something, a Family Guy.
Well, they referenced Star Wars in so many episodes, but it was 3 episodes particularly where they referenced the trilogy separately in each episode.
It's just odd to see a TV episode in a commercial. Like, go by this, not a season, get season 1, nothing like that. Which I haven't seen ads like that in a long time.
Now, how deep is this water supposed to be? We never see what this Dianoga looks like, but if you go to, Google Images, they're huge. They're these giant eyeball monsters.
They're not in 3 feet of water. So I'm not sure. How could Luke be pulled under when he's always he can always put his hand up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're standing there. The water's not that deep.
They're standing there. They're not there's not a spot where they sink 30 feet if they walk in the wrong area. I don't know.
Was there some trapdoor the Dianoga went in and then just swam back up to where they are?
This is our first Indiana Jones torture room puzzle trap, right? Indiana Jones has to get nearly crushed by stuff.
Right there where he bonks his head.
I think I missed it.
It was just
You're
a second
saying they had
ago.
it in the shot, though?
Yep, it was right there.
He was off to the right in the frame, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yes.
Standing guard.
And George references that in Attack of the Clones. There's a scene where Obi-Wan is battling with Jango Fett in the rain. Just when he throws the tracking device on the ship, Jango goes back inside the ship. He bonks his head when he goes back inside.
Oh, I'd have to look for that. I don't recall. I kind of thought at the time Attack of the Clones was the worst of the Star Wars movies, though that seems to be a bar that's moving at this point. Much like this bar that's bending, this brace in the trash compactor.
I
Do you
don't-
think they ever actually put um, the Chrome chick, or, the Chrome Stormtrooper? They say, "Hey, how about we put her in the trash compactor?" Then you don't see her again for the rest of that movie. Then I'm thinking they didn't actually throw her in the trash compactor. Maybe they made a joke. Some people act like, "Oh, she survived the trash compactor," only to end up getting beat up by uh, Finn, right? Shortly thereafter, next movie.
Yeah. They do as much disservice to Captain Phasma as they do to, say,
Phasma,
Darth Maul. They
yes.
should have kept her around for all three films. They should have kept Darth Maul around for all three
I
films.
I think that, yeah, if I made a big change, I would everything Count Dooku does, you say Darth Maul did instead, and you've got a better trilogy. I don't see anything cool or interesting about an 80-year-old guy who needs help lightsaber fighting. I mean, you could have just had a Darth Maul rematch, Darth Maul with Yoda.
Yeah.
Of why. I guess I just don't understand why. I mean, Darth Maul eats up a lot of real estate in that poster, and people think he's the Phantom Menace in the title, though he isn't. In the promotion for episode one would think he is, and then he's out of the picture. But then they retroactively bring him back to life. I kind of just find that to be BS.
Or they just wanted to have some different antagonists in all three
Oh,
films.
bringing him
Darth
back
Maul for
like 20 years
episode
later.
1, Count Dooku and Jango Fett for episode 2, and then we have General Grievous in episode 3. But they really should have kept Maul around in all three films.
He's powering down the tractor beam, right? I
Right.
think they changed the text there on that
Yeah.
beam's readout. They changed it into a sort of gibberish. I think it might have been in English
It
originally.
was English originally. They changed it to something that looks oriental. And I never understood, how is Obi-Wan able to stealthily move around the ship? Like, he's just moving from one corner to
Oh
the
yes.
next.
Well, it's
And
because they don't
earlier
have
in
cameras.
the where was it, in the cantina, when they're chatting with Han Solo and Chewbacca and the stormtroopers come in, he's just sitting casually with Luke like, no, 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 don't move, just stay calm. Like, does he have the special ability to make him invisible?
You think maybe he has force? He's using the power of force lack of observance on the stormtroopers. Like
Yeah. And right here, where these
he's mind
stormtroopers are,
tricked them into not noticing any of this.
right here, where these stormtroopers are just small talking, and he just slips by. He holds up his hand, kind of wiggles his hand, like, is he freezing them? Is he making them for a moment unable to see Obi-Wan slipping through?
No, I think
It's
what he did
establishing up
was
front he's a Jedi Master. He has
he
this
did
ability.
he did something that made them think there was something to hear that direction, so they turned their head. Force distraction. Everybody has to trash the Millennium Falcon. When you watch this movie for the first time, does it look like a hunk of junk to you? Because I thought it looked pretty
Not really.
cool. I mean, okay, there are some parts where uh, it looks used, but it doesn't look abused. Here we're going to see a ton more stormtroopers.
Yes, originally there was just like 8 of them. Now there's a ton of them.
Yeah, but those guys were kind of not moving also. It's sort of like almost like they were on an assembly line.
Yeah, it's so much more intimidating if Han comes around the corner and he's vastly outnumbered.
And I'll take these controls out, and also can't extend the bridge now.
What, look, Luke happens to have this rappel belt.
Right, but him and Han Solo are walking around with these stormtrooper belts, which must have some other stuff on them. Maybe some dental floss, toothbrush, mirrors.
Or it's just, yeah, just being resourceful, whatever they've got. Oh, that would have been a nasty fall.
We'll stop shooting him so he can do this. That'll look cool. Leia getting some shots in. Leia adding that kill count. Look, they have a little kiss here. One is thinking this is the romance to come.
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan knows this place well, doesn't he? Or has he been getting lost this whole time and we just don't see it? You know, this movie, it's this version, it comes in at, it says 2:04. I think you said it was 2 hours 5 minutes. This
Yeah.
could be dangerous right there, right? You
Whoa.
don't make that jump and then maybe get caught in a door. Well, what's the door made of? Probably something softer than it sounds like. But still, right?
Yeah. I think the original version without the special edition changes is like 2 hours, 1 minute long.
Kind of a long movie in the 70s, isn't it? Especially if
Yeah.
it's for kids, like people are saying. Disney was putting out animated films that were barely an hour, and like an hour 10 maybe at that time, maybe an hour. I think Dumbo is under an hour. I watched Toy Story for the first time in ages. It's barely an hour something. It's certainly not 90 minutes. Another thing about runtimes back then is that the credits were brief. I was watching The Muppets the other day, and that was the first movie, according to Roger Ebert, had what he called the Monk's Reward, or a little gag at the end of the credits. The credits aren't 30 seconds long. And now credits are routinely 12 minutes plus. Latest Star Wars movie probably has 12 minutes of credits. I'm assuming could be 15 more. What do you think about the distinct degrade in their lightsaber prowess? That bothers me. That Darth Maul shows up and all of a sudden lightsabers are wushu Chinese acrobat stuff. And then it's like, but then how come Luke, Obi-Wan, and Vader, when they fight, it was a slower, more methodical thing that they were careful about? It wasn't high-flying acrobatics.
Because it's Jedi in their prime. They're younger. That's what I always interpreted it as. I think that's what Lucas was going for.
From episode 1 on, lightsaber fighting, for a long time, is high-flying stuff. You get to the newer films, and the lightsabers have kind of gone back to, I guess these guys aren't as well trained, so they're not doing the flippity flips, maybe. But I mean, still, Rey gets away with too much.
Yeah, just a little too much. She's so good at everything.
Everybody who's in with the Force disappears when they die. If you're not, you become a charred skeleton crawling away from your hut.
There were some things they did improving the glow of the lightsabers during the Vader Obi-Wan fight in the original version.
Definitely.
There's some points where the lightsaber blade, it isn't there. It's just, it's there, it's gone, it's there, it's gone.
Luke's lightsaber, well, the one Obi-Wan's using, doesn't it come across as very white originally instead of blue?
It's too white in some shots. And when Others, it's more blue.
I guess
I think at
I'm
one
really
point,
confused about whose lightsabers is whose in a way. So okay, Obi-Wan had one also, right? And he gave one to Luke, but they're the same color.
yeah.
And then Luke's lightsaber, the one he has in this movie, they're calling Luke's lightsaber. What ultimately happens to that? It's the one that falls in the Cloud City, is recovered by gal with the big eyes. I think
Maz.
gets torn in half by the end of The Last Jedi. But
Where did Maz get the lightsaber?
isn't it torn in half and causes an explosion, and then Luke is force fake using it to fight Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, right?
Yes.
And then I think there's even two of them by the end of The Rise of Skywalker. Two blue lightsabers that might be the same one. I don't
There's no
know.
consistency.
If we got the shots, everybody's going to talk about being inspired by World War II dogfight footage. Kind of. I do appreciate the motion of the TIE fighters here. How it's not a steady shot of them. It's not the camera being still with them going slowly across, and it's inspired by documentary unplanned footage. If you were actually trying to get footage of a dogfight, it's not going to be rehearsed, and I think that makes this look good. It makes it look exciting.
Now, right here where the TIE fighters are flying past the Falcon, it looks like the Falcon is stationary. It's just floating there motionless. Are there whatever controls on the ship that make it do that?
We
Be
don't
motionless
see
in space
a lot
where it
of
doesn't move?
we don't see a lot of further out shots of the Falcon and the TIE fighters in the same frame. It might be their dish or inside the cockpit. At the gun station, that's about it. Nowadays, they would have a lot more exterior shots with the full Millennium Falcon doing loops and all kinds of stuff and flying through the debris. Is that an added explosion? Because they changed the explosion when the Death Star blows up is different in this.
That looked the same. I do know the Death Star explosion is different. They added in some shock waves.
I like the shockwave.
That's a good change alone.
This is so weird to think that they put the homing beacon on the ship. They let them escape. So the stormtroopers, they have the ability to shoot and kill Owen, Beru, Jawas. They talk about only Imperial stormtroopers are that accurate, right? Then they get aboard the Death Star and they're missing shots all over the place. Given strict orders, evidently, to let them escape, not to kill. She's gonna lead us back to their base. However, everybody seems to only then reference the activity from that skirmish aboard the Death Star as evidence of this is how stormtroopers can't shoot. So from that point on, no stormtrooper can shoot at all. It is absolute garbage with a blaster. But at the beginning of the movie, they're shooting. Must have killed dozens of rebels, right, before Vader got aboard the ship.
Yeah, I was thinking of saying something about that, but
After
figured I'd save it for later.
After this, from this point forward, I don't think stormtroopers ever hit anything. Period. People were saying that in The Mandalorian, the stormtroopers that come up are just so brazenly incompetent that it kind of ruins the threat level of the movie. Or of the show, that is. That's an added shot right there. Kind of the approach sort of shots. It looks okay.
The main thing for me watching this so many times, 1977, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher, they're so young here.
I think I'm older than Harrison Ford is in this movie, which does not make me feel young.
Same here.
Okay, now is it an added thing or was it a cut deal where Luke runs across his buddy that would have been at Tashi Station? I think the guy was at the beginning of the film in the cut footage, but he comes
It's in
across
the
him
cut
here and is like,
footage.
"Hey, it's so good to see you," right?
Yes, but then it's an added scene for the special edition.
Okay, so it wasn't in the original at all. That guy's whole
It,
role was taken out of the movie. The rip.
well, he's there in the movie. It's just that added scene of Luke and Biggs meeting together. That was an added scene.
That no, they. I mean, okay, so them meeting in a minute here, or do they not?
We're getting there.
But them meeting at all. Okay, so Biggs in the original version or not?
Yes, he's in the original version. He's still there during the actual trench run battle. We just don't have the scene of Luke and Biggs small talking
This
before
right
they
here,
get aboard their
oh,
X-wings.
there's Wedge. So right here, this is one of the first examples of, one could call it CGI. It's a computer program model done specifically for the movie. This sort of like computer map. It's not aiming at realism, so it doesn't get brought up a whole lot. But this is, can you imagine trying to program a computer to do this in the 70s? Where there's pretty much no program exists to make this easy? Building
Would have
models.
been tricky, but I think they could pull it off.
See, well, a lot of what you see when a computer representation in a movie is not a computer, like in Tron, it's kind of like, let's paint this a fluorescent color and shoot it with this kind of camera, and then we'll say it'll look like a computer did it. But here, it's the computer does. And I think it's kind of impressive, given that all you could really do is just type into a computer at that point. I don't even think you have a mouse.
Okay, two things. That was a different actor playing Wedge in this scene right here. That was not Dennis Lawson. That was some other guy they had who maybe they were thinking to play Wedge at first, but they kept him in for only that one scene. And a moment ago, when the general pronounces Princess Leia, why did no one correct that and they just left it in there?
Well, you also
the
have Han Solo
Han
and Han on, yeah, frequently. Leia calls him Han a lot, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Okay, so was that Wedge or was it not Wedge?
I think it was supposed to be him, but it's
I
not
think
the
it's
same
supposed
actor.
to be, but the thing is, he's not there later when he is called Wedged. So it could be a guy that looks like him. I think the official explanation is that it's supposed to be the same character. So I kind of go either way.
Okay, this is Han collecting his reward. Okay, these are Republic credits. What's in these things? They're boxes? Is it basically like gold bullion in the Star Wars universe?
I mean, it's got to be a lot of credits, right?
Yeah, and those boxes of that size?
Well, I think I saw what credits look like in The Mandalorian, and it's sort of like everybody's trying to take different currency, because it's like, hey, those are Imperial credits, because the Empire's been dissolved. That's not going to do me any good. Okay, fine, take the calamari credits or whoever. Like, we got different factions using different currencies.
Okay, it's coming up right. We're getting to it. Right here, this rebel escorting Princess Leia here. That was Alan Harris, who we'll see. He plays, I think, a stormtrooper in all three films. He's a stuntman. He plays Bosk in The Empire Strikes Back. And I think he was also a Cloud City trooper.
What's his role here? Kind of looks like a doctor.
Yeah, something like that.
The not so awesome Y bombers, and this is an added scene.
Here it is, right here. The added scene. Yep, added scene for the special edition.
Yeah, there is cut footage where Biggs has returned to Tatooine, and hey, I'm gonna be leaving soon, kid. You know, kind of like Luke Skywalker looks up to him, sort of deal. Got a lot of stories to tell you when we get back.
And for those of you James Bond fans out there, here's another little trivia. This guy playing the rebel technician, that's Shane Rimmer, who was also... He was Tom in Diamonds Are Forever, and he was Captain Carter in The Spy Who Loved Me. We'll see him also very briefly as a technician in You Only Live Twice.
It's amazing how little plot is going on in this movie compared to the newer ones, where it's like you can't keep up with, hold on, we have to get the what to the who, and it's over here, but only if we do this. Meanwhile, these people are off doing their own thing. That's confusing.
Okay, there we just saw Wedge. That, I'm pretty sure, was the actual actor, Dennis Lawson.
I guess the updated X-wings, they have their design is more in line with the original concept art, where we have like 4 engines here, and it's like 4 circles. In the newer films, they are 2 half circles that come together when they fold. And I guess that was the way the concept art had it. Maybe that was harder to build, so
Yeah.
they didn't go
and
with
right
it.
here, where the X-Wings take off, that was an added little thing they improved on. Originally,
The
you just
X-wings
see...
on approach, as we'll see them
Yeah.
coming up, it's noticeably CGI right here. Yeah, that looks
Right.
very 1997-ish CGI textures.
Yeah, originally you just see them taking off in the distance, just this little speck of light. But it's got to be nerve-wracking for Luke flying an actual X-Wing for the first time in an actual space battle.
All right,
In this
Porkins.
radio drama...
Isn't Porkins? Isn't he Commissioner Gordon in Batman '89? I think.
He was Eckhart in '89.
Oh, okay,
and,
that's right. Yeah.
And we mentioned this during our Raiders of the Lost Ark commentary. He was Major Eaton in that film as well.
I think a lot of
But I
this
was gonna
cockpit
say-
footage looks really cool.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
looks nice.
In the radio drama, there's a scene somewhere before this where Luke is flying a simulator where he's doing a practice test run. And he passes the test results, and that grants him that he's able to fly an X-Wing during this battle.
Oh, so it wasn't just anybody who wants can just jump in one. It looked like they were a little short staff, like they would just accept him if he's willing, you know?
That could be the thing, or it was just something they felt would be fun to add in for the radio drama, just to expand the story more.
That's kind of nice.
Now the trench run, this in particular, so much going on in the special edition changes that it's debatable. Do they look to improve upon or not? Or was the
I think a
original
lot
way
of the
better?
trench, the surface, they shot a lot of that outdoors and kind of just ran by in like a forklift or a cart with the camera. And you can see some of that in the surface. The surface looks a little more miniature than some other miniatures in the movie. I think the trench looks fine, but some of this on the surface here, you can... Yeah. 70s miniature. Oh, no. And that's an odd graphic right there, how they got like this burning flame in the circle. I guess that's they're approaching within range of their beam. Kind of a weird way to represent that. Enemy fighters, including Darth Vader, who I guess likes to get his hands dirty, right? He's got his own sort of special TIE fighter with the... it becomes less special. You start to see more of them with the like concaved wings. And then sometimes you even see them where it's like there's 2 pods to sit in.
He's got a special TIE fighter of his own. And then
Yeah, but the
next to him,
graphic right there, it didn't show a TIE fighter in the green graphic. It was like Darth Vader's TIE fighter with
yeah,
the bent-in wings. Good music kicking in here.
yeah, John Williams definitely kicking it in high gear. That's another thing of the later films. The music just isn't as memorable. The only
The
thing that is
music in The
memorable is stuff just
Mandalorian's not
recycled
so great.
from the originals.
I can't remember any new or unique tunes in the last 3 of this whatever trilogy they're calling. There's Wedge, the real Wedge. Now Wedge becomes what, Red Leader at some point in it, or he's something
Yeah.
leader.
He's got a different title in all 3 films.
Yeah. This is a good shot right here.
Oh, definitely.
Now you get in the trench, you got this amazing sensation of speed.
There's always some speed chase going on in all these films. Whether it's the trench runs, the battle top with the snow speeders, the speeder bike chase, the pod race even. There's always some high speed chase going on.
Yeah, I guess without the pod race, there wouldn't have been one in episode 1. And there is Vader's ship.
And he's got his own super class Star Destroyer in Empire and Jedi.
Yeah, perks of being the head Sith and in command of the operation, I guess, huh? Like are you under the impression that I guess that the idea is that in this movie Vader's kind of second in charge behind Grand Moff Tarkin, though it didn't really dawn on me. Like, I guess Tarkin is in charge of the Death Star, so since he's visiting the Death Star, he's under his authority, possibly.
That's what seems to be. Yeah, Grand Moff Tarkin's in command. Vader's more this mercenary just to show that the Empire means business. I don't think Vader was planned so much to be the main villain until later. It's one of those things where, arguably, same thing with Boba Fett. Nobody figured he'd be such a cool villain until later.
I don't think he's the main villain. Ultimately, it's probably Palpatine's the main villain, but Vader's like the main henchman, like the top henchman, or number 2 or something, like right behind,
second
next
in
in
command.
command. Yeah. In tvtropes.com or is it .org? I don't want to lead anybody to the wrong site. You can kind of you can look up anything and it tells you all the tropes in it. And I think that Vader is described as the dragon. So it's like someone could be the guy in charge, but maybe his main henchman, the dragon that you have to get through, is going to be a more daunting task.
Ugh. And these rebel fighters are blowing up like flies.
Yeah, how many did we start with?
6 maybe?
The Y-Wings don't do so hot either, right? Does this guy actually escape? Wedge escapes. Not a lot of them get out of there.
I think next to Luke, only Wedge makes it back.
Now this guy who just shot and missed, he's flying home, isn't he? Or is he gonna get taken out by Vader?
Nope, he's gonna be taken out pretty soon.
I thought maybe a Y-Wing comes back. Or is that a negative? Boom. That right there, that explosion, that was done out in the daylight, running outside in the daylight with the mock-up. They mentioned Beggar's Cannon in Mandalorian. I guess we need to see Beggar's Cannon at some point. You can probably play it in one of the games. He has a chance to take a shot with the computer, but rejects it in favor of the Force. And it works. It must have taken all of Force Obi-Wan Kenobi's ability to reach Luke in his mind during this hectic time to tell him to reach out with the Force, right?
Yeah.
He never appears as an apparition beforehand to be like, hey, don't worry. I'm going to give you some instruction. We're going to do it together. The second
But as
movie,
you
he's
pointed
like, I'm a
out
ghost.
in your review of The Force Awakens, it's just so much more impactful here when Obi-Wan dies, then later we do the trench run. And with Luke, he's the main character. We want him to emerge victorious. When they do it in Force Awakens, it's just predictable.
They don't have a... I'm trying to remember how they take out Starkiller Base. It's that forgettable, isn't it? They don't have a trench run thing, do they? Or they a throwaway facsimile one, maybe with Poe Dameron?
It's similar, but it's forgettable at best.
There's so much wrong, it's hard to keep track of. I think that was their goal with the new films, is if we just get everybody to change their focus so that they can't hark on whatever happened just now that doesn't add up.
It's like, why are we continuing the story when all we're doing is basically hitting the reset button?
Well, there's a law of diminishing returns. And the first series, you have some of that too. Bringing back the Death Star when it's already been destroyed kind of takes away the threat to some degree. And seeing it blow up time and time again kind of makes you think it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to get wrecked by the end of the movie anyhow. In a way, it's actually kind of surprising that we don't have a Death Star in The Empire Strikes Back. What's with this helmet here where it's got like this underbite type thing over the oddest helmet, right? Like, does a guy need a helmet with like all this welding mask type apparatus just to flip some switches in the computer room? What? Who took him out? What is that? Redemption. Now, the return of Han Solo right here, saving him. In the theater in 1977, do you think that's possibly the height of applause? And then that happens, and then right away you hit him with blowing the whole thing up. There's a Y-wing. Y-wing escapes. 2 X-Fighters, Falcon, Y-wing. The Shockwave looks cool. I don't care what you say in the comments. The Shockwave's sweet.
Oh, definitely. I'm cool with that change alone.
That was a 1 in a million, like the Holdo maneuver. We're establishing that Vader did not get blown up. He's kind of adrift, recovers. He'll be back.
Where does he go? How far away does he have to fly in space to reach the next checkpoint?
I never really totally understood the range of the smaller ships, but it seemed like the smaller ones couldn't go to hyperspace, right? Like you don't see the X-Wing go in and out of hyperspace in the original trilogy.
Yeah, right here, just a second ago, if you listen carefully, Mark Hamill shouts, "Carrie!"
Oh, does he? I think they may dub that, loop some other stuff over it so it's kind of harder to hear. Don't worry, R2 will be okay.
R2 doesn't look too good.
He'll be all right.
Yeah, he'll be fine. We got
Brushing
medals to
aside
pick up.
bots. Oh, Chewie doesn't get to hug the three of us as we walk together. Where does Luke get this jacket? It doesn't really appear again. And also, odd takeaway here. First time seeing the movie, I didn't realize that was Princess Leia handing out the medals.
And right here on the
This
left
is my
and right
favorite Star
sides,
Wars music right here.
they added in actual actors playing these rebels just standing there. Originally, they were just cardboard cutouts or something.
I think they had some, but yeah, they matte painting them or something effect to make it appear more. Cool jacket, by the way, on him. But yeah, I didn't realize this was Princess Leia. The hair changed, and I thought it was somebody else.
Yeah.
You get a medal.
One for you.
Okay, I'm gonna change my attention back to this guy, and you're gonna get a medal. Chewie, I don't know why you're standing
And
up
one for
here,
you.
but whatever. And then at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, it's like, hey, I found a medal for you. Like, what? I'm not going to get a special ceremony? Like,
It was just fan service.
they did
Chewie
this
finally gets a medal.
They did this perfectly on the Family Guy with the R2D2 excited, and then everybody kind of laughs. Because really, what people are forgetting there is that he's repaired. Oh, hey, he's fine, yay! That's kind of what the smile's about. I think it's
How
a
much
foregone
time passed?
conclusion. Everybody probably thought he was okay, right?
Yeah.
Most people watching this now probably never even thought he was in danger, for that matter, right? Oh, hey, he's fixed, yay! No, it's just, oh, okay. So why is he excited? Okay, closing thoughts. You got anything to say there?
What can you say? Star Wars. Just Star Wars. It's just every time I watch this, it's just pure adrenaline. I just love the movie. Definite 10 out of 10.
There are those who say saved in editing. I don't think that's entirely true. And then all you can point to is the work cut sort of almost dailies like edit that you can see clips of on YouTube and the like. I wouldn't call that the original proposed release by any means. So I think this was a pretty solid. Is this George Lucas's best movie that he directed? I would think
Definitely.
so. Yeah. A bit cheated over at the Oscars, wasn't it? Not. I guess the Oscars just weren't ready for this.
Well, you could say that, but it was definitely ahead of its time.
Okay, well, yeah, very good film. I guess you got to give it 4 stars, huh? Though it's a weird thing where it's like, I do prefer, or I think, The Empire Strikes Back is better. In a similar way, I prefer Alien to Aliens, but I wouldn't fight anybody who said Aliens is better. Second cameraman, Dennis Muren. Look up that guy's IMDb CV. I mean, he's sort of like the originator of quality CGI.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, his credits are like a Hall of Fame list. So, and we saw Ralph McQuarrie with the concept art and some other names here. Dan O'Bannon working computer.
Ken Ralston, we'll see him later. He hosts some of the main documentaries on how they did the special effects in Forrest Gump.
Do they credit Industrial Light and Magic in this one, or is it not yet a company name?
I don't think it was a thing yet.
Does that start with? Does that possibly there? It says Wedge, Dennis Lawson. So that's kind of weird.
Dennis with 2 N's. It's supposed to be with 1 N.
It's a little weird to see a character's name with their in parentheses, in a way. Like, Okay, well, I guess that'll do it. You got any final words there? Industrial Light and Magic. Whoa. That's a cool company name, isn't it?
Yeah,
They make magic.
when was it first a thing? Raiders of the Lost Ark, maybe? I think it was about then when they started identifying it as such. But it wasn't just these movies. Industrial Light and Magic, we'll see it in E.T. and Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. The list goes on.
Yeah, a number of Lucasfilm productions. They also, in a way, Pixar gets spun off from them and then acquired by Disney. Because the first Pixar short shown here on Disney Plus is actually Industrial Light and Magic short. It's called like Andre and the Bee, or the Bee and Andre Bee. You'll see it on the list there. It's from 1984, and it is it's about a minute long, so it's definitely brief. Books and novelization available. It says 1997. Kind of odd.
I never understood that change. I think it should still say 1977, 1980, and 1983 respectively. That's one change I could have done without, definitely.
Oh,
if
are you
nothing
gonna
else.
you gonna can you still phone THX?
Good question.
I don't usually see a phone
So,
number at the end of a movie. All right. Well, till next
Yeah,
time,
Star Wars
guys.
1977. Love it.